Can I ask you something before we even begin? Why does the tear come before the words do? Why is it that the moment you sat down and pressed play, something in your chest that you have been holding together for months suddenly loosened, and you did not give it permission? You did not plan to feel this today. You did not schedule this softening. You told yourself you were fine. You told yourself you had made peace with the silence. You told yourself you had stopped counting the days and stopped keeping the list of names, and yet here you are, and the list is not gone. It is just quieter. It moved from the front of your mind to the back of your throat, and it is still there, waiting for someone to notice. Beloved, I need you to notice something with me. Heaven has been counting even when you stopped counting, and today, of all days, is not a coincidence. There is a specific reason this word reached you in this exact hour, and before this message ends, I am going to name it out loud, so plainly that you will not be able to unhear it. But not yet. Stay with me first. You have been carrying a burden that most people around you do not even know exists. It is not the burden of a bill. It is not the burden of a job. It is not the burden that shows up in the small talk. It is the burden of being doubted by people who should have believed you. It is the burden of being watched by people who did not lift a finger to help you. It is the burden of standing in a room full of relatives, co-workers, friends, and sometimes even church members, and knowing without a single word being spoken that they had already decided who you were, what you would fail at, and how long it would take for them to be proven right. And you smiled through it. You served through it. You prayed through it. You kept your voice soft when your soul was screaming, and no one, not one person in that room, knew the weight of what you were holding down. But heaven knew. Heaven has always known. And today, everyone who doubted you, everyone who wrote you off, everyone who mocked the quiet way God was moving in your life, has received their answer. Not from your mouth, from His. I want you to breathe for a moment before I go further, because I feel something over this word that is heavier than the usual reading. There is somebody watching this whose hands are shaking a little, and you do not know why. You just came for a word. You did not come for exposure. And yet exposure is what this is, not the kind that shames you, the kind that finally lifts the veil off years of confusion and lets you see what was actually happening in the background of your story. Because, chosen one, you have been living inside a narrative that other people wrote for you, and you accepted it too easily. You accepted their timeline. You accepted their reading of your delay. You accepted their translation of your tears. And the reason it hurts so much is because deep down, you always knew their translation was wrong, but you did not have the strength to argue with everyone at once. So you went quiet, and your silence was mistaken for defeat. Hear me carefully. Your silence was not defeat. Your silence was the sound of a soul refusing to defend itself in a courtroom where the judge was already on its side. Stay with me, because there is a name I have not spoken yet, and it belongs to the person whose face just came to your mind. You know exactly who I mean. You did not want to think of them tonight. You had gone weeks, maybe months, without letting their name cross your thoughts, and now here they are, standing in the doorway of your memory as if they never left. That is not random. Heaven is not tormenting you. Heaven is showing you that the same person you have been trying to forgive quietly is the exact person whose doubt reached its expiration date today. You will understand what that means before this word closes. But before I explain it, there is something older that has to be brought forward first. Because the pain of being doubted did not start with them, it started long before them. And if we do not go back there together, the healing will only touch the surface. And I did not come here tonight to touch the surface of anything. I came for the root. You were doubted when you were young. You may not remember the exact sentence, but your spirit remembers the tone. It was the tone that said, "You are too much." It was the tone that said, "You are too sensitive." It was the tone that said, "You are dreaming too loud for a child in this house." Somewhere along the way, an adult who was meant to protect the light in you started to treat that light like a problem. And you learned, without anyone teaching you formally, that in order to be loved, you had to be smaller. In order to be accepted, you had to be quieter. In order to be safe, you had to make yourself easier to ignore, and you carried that lesson into every friendship, every workplace, every relationship, every altar. That is why the doubt of grown men and grown women hits you as hard as it does today. It is not just today's wound. It is the reopening of a very old cut, and you have been bleeding in silence for so long that you forgot the bleeding was not normal. Beloved, it was never normal. And today, heaven is not just answering the ones who doubted you recently. Heaven is answering the very first voice that ever told you your light was too bright to live in. If your spirit is trembling right now, I want you to type the words, "I receive it," in the comments before you go any further, because that phrase is going to be an anchor for you as this message unfolds. Do not overthink it. Do not perform it. Just let your fingers become the first witness of what your soul is already agreeing with. This is not for the algorithm. This is for your alignment. Every time you type a truth over your own life, something in the unseen realm records it as a stake in the ground. And you are going to need those stakes in the ground before this word ends, because there is a shift coming in your posture that you cannot afford to walk into with an unwitnessed spirit. Now, hear this carefully. There is a difference between people who doubted you and people who dismissed you, and heaven has been keeping separate ledgers on both. The one who doubted you still watched you. The one who dismissed you stopped watching entirely. The one who doubted you still felt something when your name came up. The one who dismissed you trained themselves to feel nothing. And today, the answer that arrived is not the same for both groups. To the ones who doubted, heaven is sending a moment of undeniable evidence, not to humiliate them, to confront them with a version of you they no longer have the authority to define. To the ones who dismissed, heaven is sending something quieter, but far more piercing. It is sending them the ache of realizing they missed the very thing they were supposed to protect. And that ache is not vengeance. That ache is mercy in reverse. Because mercy sometimes wears the face of regret, and regret is the doorway that leads doubters back to God when nothing else can reach them. But listen to me. This is not your job. Do not confront them. Do not send the message you have been drafting in your head for 3 months. Do not post the caption you have been rehearsing. Do not stage the phone call where you finally make them understand what they did. Because the moment you take up your own defense, you interrupt the defense heaven has already scheduled on your behalf, and you have no idea how much of the harvest is tied to your restraint. Do not do it. And here is why the restraint matters more than you have been told. There is a specific room, a specific gathering, a specific conversation happening about you right now that you are not in and were never meant to be in, and the way it ends is entirely dependent on whether your voice is present in it or absent from it. If you insert yourself, that meeting shifts against you. If you stay quiet, that meeting shifts on your behalf without you lifting a finger. Your silence has become the pen God is using to write the closing paragraph. Do not take the pen from His hand. I want to ask you a question, and I want you to answer it honestly, even if you only answer it inside yourself. When was the last time you were believed, not tolerated, not humored, not managed, believed? When was the last time somebody looked at your dream, your ache, your calling, your prophecy, your fear, your prayer, and did not correct you, did not measure you, did not scale you back into something more manageable, but simply believed you? If you cannot remember, that alone is a signal that the season of being surrounded by unbelievers of your identity is closing. It is not that they were all evil. Some of them were tired. Some of them were afraid. Some of them projected their own broken timeline onto yours because your patience made their compromise feel uncomfortable. But whatever their reasons were, God is done letting their unbelief function as the ceiling of your obedience. Stay with me, because I said earlier there was a name I had not spoken yet, and I have not forgotten. But before I bring it back to the front, I want to say something to the person watching who has almost given up on being understood. You told yourself that being misunderstood was the price of being called, and you were half right. But somewhere in that half-truth, you began to believe that being misunderstood by everyone was a spiritual virtue. It is not. Being misunderstood by the wrong people is a stewardship. Being misunderstood by everyone is often a sign that the enemy has quietly walled you off from the very witnesses God wants to bring around you in this next chapter. There are 2 or 3 people you were supposed to meet already, and the reason you have not met them yet is because the wrong voices were still occupying seats in your life that those new voices need to sit in. Today is the day heaven begins the reseating. If this word is speaking to something you have not even told God out loud, subscribe to this channel, because this is not the last time He is going to walk you into a room like this. This is not a channel that stumbles onto its messages. Every word here is timed, every word here is aimed, and the messages that come next are going to keep tracing the same secret address in your life. If you know you cannot afford to miss what God is about to say next, subscribe and turn on the bell, because you were not led here just to feel a warm moment tonight. You were led here to be tracked by heaven in the days that follow, and this channel is one of the ways God is going to keep meeting you. Stay connected. Do not walk away from confirmation just because it made you cry. Now, here is a layer I promised I would open. What you thought was rejection was actually reassignment. Say that again inside yourself. What you thought was rejection was actually reassignment. The door that closed on you 3 years ago was not slammed, it was sealed. There is a difference. Slammed doors are angry. Sealed doors are official. And a sealed door has a name written above it that says, "Not this way," because that way would have cost you the calling. You have been mourning a closed opportunity that was never supposed to be a doorway. It was a filter. And it filtered you exactly where you needed to be filtered. Into a smaller room, with a smaller circle, with a smaller reputation, so that when the elevation came, it could not be traced back to human hands. Because the enemy studies the credit trail. If your rise can be credited to a person, it can be reversed by a person. If your rise can only be credited to God, no person on this planet has jurisdiction to undo it. And here is where the doubters unknowingly served your calling. Every time they refused to help you, they eliminated themselves from the credit list. Every time they refused to open a door, they made sure the door would have to be opened by heaven itself. Every time they whispered about you behind your back, they were unknowingly clearing the room of the wrong witnesses, so that when your moment arrived, the only witnesses left standing would be the ones who could handle the weight of what God was about to do. So when I say today they received their answer, I do not mean today they were shamed. I mean today the version of you they refused to see began to walk into rooms they cannot enter. And they will feel it. They will feel it in ways they cannot articulate. Some of them will feel it as a strange restlessness. Some of them will feel it as an unexplained conviction. Some of them will feel it as a dream that wakes them at 3 in the morning with a face they have not thought about in years, and that face will be yours. Hear this carefully, because this is the part many overlook. When God vindicates the hidden ones, He does not always vindicate them loudly. Sometimes vindication is silent. Sometimes vindication is a text you never sent, being answered anyway. Sometimes vindication is a room you were never invited to, suddenly speaking your name with respect. Sometimes vindication is the person who mocked you calling a mutual friend to ask how you have been, and you never even hearing about it. You will not always be told when the ledger closes. but you will feel it in your sleep. You will feel it in your breathing. You will feel a weight lift that you did not even know was still on you. And when it lifts, do not question it. Do not ask God to explain the mechanics. Just say thank you. Just say thank you and keep walking. There is a story I want to bring in here, because it has been standing at the edge of my spirit since this word began, and it is the story of Hannah. Not Hannah, the mother of Samuel yet. Hannah before she was a mother. Hannah at the temple. Hannah with lips moving and no sound coming out. Hannah being watched by Eli the priest, and Eli, the man of God himself, misjudging her. He accused her of being drunk. Beloved, do you understand what I just said? The priest, the appointed voice of God in that place, looked at a woman in the middle of her most sacred moment and could not tell the difference between anguish and intoxication. If it happened to Hannah, hear me, it can happen to you. You can be in your most consecrated season and be read entirely wrong by the very people who should have discerned you best. That is not a sign that you are outside of God. That is a sign that you are so deeply inside of God that even trained eyes cannot follow you where you have gone. And what Hannah did next is the exact posture I am asking you to hold tonight. She did not curse Eli. She did not storm out. She corrected him gently, and she kept praying. She let her breakthrough come from the same altar where she had been misjudged, because she understood that her assignment was not to educate her doubters. Her assignment was to deliver a Samuel. And you, chosen one, are carrying a Samuel too. It may not look like a child. It may look like a book, a business, a healing, a message, a movement, a reconciliation. But whatever it is a Samuel. And Samuel does not care who doubted his mother. Samuel only cares that his mother did not abandon the altar in the middle of her humiliation. If your heart is agreeing with this, let your like on this video be your quiet yes to God. Not a performance, not for me, for the record of heaven. Sometimes the smallest physical action of agreement is the exact thing your spirit needed to release something it has been holding in for too long. Let that click be a small altar. Let it be the moment you stop rehearsing your defense and start receiving your answer. Now let me open something that I have been holding back, because I do not want to lose you before you hear it. There is a specific reason. Today is the day this word arrived. It has to do with a prayer you prayed a long time ago and forgot. You did not think anything came of it. You prayed it during a season where you had almost stopped believing your prayers were being tracked. It was a prayer prayed in tears, in a car, in a bathroom, in a bed, in a kitchen, somewhere no one saw. You said something like, God, if you are really watching, if you really see me, if I am not crazy for still believing in this, would you please answer everyone who doubted me? Not with revenge, just with truth. Just make it clear that I was not making it up. And then you moved on, because life did not give you the space to sit in that prayer any longer. But heaven did not move on. Heaven filed it. Heaven marked it. Heaven waited for the day when the answer could arrive without you needing to lift your own hand. And beloved, that day is not next year. That day is not next month. That day is not even next week. That day is today. The prayer you almost forgot has caught up with your calendar. That is why your chest is tight. That is why you are hearing this, and something in you keeps repeating, how does he know? I do not know. God knows. And he is not showing me the details. He is showing me the address. He is showing me the exact emotional street corner where you have been standing, waiting for a bus you were no longer sure was coming. The bus is turning the corner. You can hear it now, if you listen. That low hum in your spirit that you have been dismissing as anxiety is not anxiety. It is arrival. Stay with me, because there is something I have not said yet that I refuse to let this word close without. What comes next in your life will not look like what you asked for. Read that slowly. It will look like something better, but it will not look like what you asked for, because what you asked for was shaped by the pain you were in when you asked for it. And God will not honor the shape of your pain. He will honor the shape of your destiny. So when the answer comes, do not measure it against the shape of your old request. Measure it against the shape of who you are becoming. The doubters had a version of you they were expecting to be proven wrong about. They were expecting the small version, the version they mocked, the version they underestimated. But God is not defending the small version. God is unveiling the version they never even considered as a possibility. And that version is not for their entertainment. That version is for His glory. So when your elevation comes, do not turn around to check if they are watching. Do not measure your rising by their reactions. Keep your eyes forward, because looking backward for approval is how many chosen ones have stumbled at their own threshold. Do not respond to them. Do not explain yourself to them. Do not send the receipts. Do not perform your healing in front of them. Because the moment you perform your healing, you signal to the unseen realm that your healing was never really about you. It was about them. And God will not multiply what was rooted in someone else's opinion of you. He will only multiply what was rooted in your unwitnessed obedience. Do not do it. And here is the deeper reason. The moment you engage them, you re-enter a courtroom that God has already dismissed. You cannot litigate a case that has been closed. You will only reopen your own wound and pull yourself back into a season that heaven has already sealed behind you. Let the door stay sealed. There is nothing behind that door that you need. Everything you need is in front of you, and it is closer than you think. There is a person you have not met yet who has already been praying for someone with your exact story. They do not know your name. They only know the shape of the person God is going to bring across their path. And every time they pray, they are pulling you a little closer without knowing it. That is why some of your recent decisions have felt strange even to you. That is why you took a route you would not normally take. That is why you said yes to something that on paper made no sense. You were not being reckless. You were being drawn by a prayer you have not read yet, spoken by a person you have not embraced yet, in a room that has not yet been introduced to your presence. And when that meeting happens, you will look back at this exact night and remember that you were told in advance. If somebody watching this needs to hear these words, share this video with them. Not because it is trending, not because it is popular, because there is a specific soul out there right now who is one signal away from surrendering, and your share might be the signal. You do not have to say anything with it. You do not have to add a caption, just send it. Let the message do the work, because the same God who is speaking to you through this word right now is capable of speaking to them through your obedience. I want to bring in a second layer, and I want you to hold it gently. There is a category of doubter that we have not addressed yet, and it is the hardest one to talk about, because it is the doubter that lives inside your own house. It is the doubter that shares your last name. It is the mother who never quite believed you. It is the father who compared you to your sibling. It is the spouse who tolerated your dream but never truly stood inside of it with you. It is the brother, the sister, the aunt, the uncle who nodded along while you spoke but rolled their eyes the moment you left the room. Family doubt is a specific kind of wound because family was supposed to be the first amen and instead became the first frown. And I know what you have told yourself. You have told yourself, well, they mean well. You have told yourself, well, they came from a different generation. You have told yourself, well, they cannot understand what they have not walked through. All of that may be true, but truth does not remove impact. Their inability to see you still shaped you, and tonight that shaping is being unstitched, thread by thread. Hear me. You do not have to hate your family to heal from your family. You do not have to cut off everyone who ever misunderstood you. Some of them will be repositioned. Some of them will be softened. Some of them will be surprised. Some of them will apologize in ways you never expected. and some of them will simply be quieted, not silenced by God as punishment, silenced by God as protection, because the same voice that had authority to hurt you no longer has permission to speak into your identity. God is not asking you to build a fortress against them. God is asking you to walk through the door He has opened without waiting for them to walk through it with you. Listen closely, because this is a hinge moment. Everything I have said so far is what heaven wanted you to feel. But what I am about to say is what heaven wants you to know. Feeling and knowing are two different rivers. You have been drinking from the river of feeling for a long time, and it is a beautiful river, but it will not carry you across the threshold. Only knowing will carry you across. So here is what I need you to know. You are not too late, and I said earlier there are reassurance lines I would only speak when they were earned. This is the moment they are earned. You are not too late. The years you thought you lost were not lost. They were laid down as foundation stones for a building that is still being constructed. Every tear you thought was wasted was folded into the mortar. Every prayer you thought was unheard was pressed into the walls. And when you finally walk into the finished building, you will recognize the smell of every season you thought you had wasted, because none of it was wasted. It was materials. And every builder knows that materials sometimes sit outside in the rain for a long time before the real construction begins. Subscribe if you know this channel keeps meeting you at the exact intersection of pain and purpose. Subscribe, not because I asked, but because your spirit is telling you that the pattern of confirmation you have been experiencing is not going to stop with this video. The next word is already being formed. The next revelation is already being written. And if you are in this season, you cannot afford to be somewhere else when it drops. This channel is for the people carrying hidden assignments, spiritual pressure, silent battles, and holy timing seasons. If that is you, stay connected, because the moment you subscribe and turn on the bell, you are telling heaven that you are choosing to remain in the flow of continuous confirmation, not scattered inspiration. Now, I want to describe something to you that has been happening in the unseen realm. There has been a report going back and forth about you. Do not be afraid of that word report. I do not mean an accusation. I mean an update. Heaven receives reports, not because God is uninformed, because God is orderly. And the report about you has been shifting. There was a season where the report about you was full of your pain, your prayers, your endurance, your quiet obedience. That was the hidden phase report. But recently, the report has changed. The report has moved from endurance to emergence, from formation to fruit, from preparation to placement. And when a report changes in heaven, it triggers movement on earth. That is why things have started feeling strange to you. That is why doors you gave up on are creaking. That is why old contacts are suddenly appearing. That is why your dreams have gotten more vivid. That is why your appetite for old distractions has been dying without you even trying. You are not imagining it. Heaven's report about you has been updated. Earth is only now catching up. And do not miss this part, because it is where it turns. There is a specific person you have been waiting on an answer from, and you have been reading their silence wrong. You have been reading their silence as rejection. It is not rejection, it is delay, and the delay was not caused by them, it was caused by God, so that when the answer finally comes, you will know it was not manipulated by your efforts. You have not been ghosted, you have been guarded. There is a difference. Being ghosted means you were forgotten. Being guarded means you were protected from receiving the answer at a moment when you were still emotionally in the position of the one who begs. God is not going to hand you an answer while you are still bent in a posture of begging. He is going to wait until you are standing upright, until you are settled, until you are no longer identifying yourself by the wound. And then, and only then, will the answer be released. Not because he is withholding, Because He is honoring the version of you that is about to walk into it. Comment what you are trusting God for in this season. Not vaguely, specifically. Write it in the language of expectation, not desperation. Write it as if you already know the answer is on its way, because it is. Your comment is not a message to me. Your comment is a stake in the ground. When your answer arrives, and you scroll back and see what you wrote tonight, you will realize you were prophesying over your own life in real time and did not even know it. Let this comment section be a wall of testimony being built in advance. I want to slow down for a moment and speak to the part of you that has been afraid to hope again. You are not being paranoid. You are being cautious, because the last few times you hoped, you were disappointed, and something in you decided quietly that it was safer to stop hoping than to keep being wounded. That is not spiritual failure. That is emotional intelligence, trying to protect a heart that was never fully bandaged after the last hit. But hear me. There is a difference between naive hope and prophetic hope. Naive hope hopes without discernment. Prophetic hope hopes with confirmation. And you are not being invited back into naive hope tonight. You are being invited into prophetic hope, confirmed hope, witnessed hope, timed hope, hope that has receipts in the unseen realm, hope that is not asking your permission because it has already been rehearsed in eternity before it was ever spoken over your life. That is the kind of hope you are being asked to receive. And if that kind of hope still scares you, that is okay. Hope always scares people who have been wounded by counterfeits of it. Just do not close the door because it scared you. Let it in slowly. Let it in through the crack under the door if it must. But do not seal that door. There is one more layer that I have been holding, and I refuse to close this word without opening it. It is this. The doubt you carry about yourself is louder than the doubt anyone else has ever spoken. And that is the doubt that had to be dealt with first. Because if only the external doubters had received their answer today, but the internal one remained, you would still be defeated tomorrow. So God did not just close the mouths of the doubters around you. He is confronting the doubter inside you, the voice that told you that you were making it up, the voice that told you that you were being dramatic, the voice that told you that other people had it worse and you should be quiet, the voice that told you that your calling was a form of arrogance, the voice that told you that you were the common denominator in every disappointment. That voice is being unseated tonight. Not silenced by force, corrected by truth, because truth is stronger than volume, and God has spoken truth over you that is louder than every whisper you inherited. Let me say that plainly. The whisper that has been running your inner life is being dethroned. Something new is being installed. And it will not sound like fireworks. It will sound like quiet, a quiet you have not known in years, a quiet that does not feel like isolation, a quiet that feels like coverage, a quiet that feels like being watched over rather than watched. And in that quiet, you are going to hear the voice of God more clearly than you have in a long time. Not because He got louder, because the interference got weaker. Before I bring this word into its sealing, I need to say something to the one who is still afraid this message is not really for them. You have been telling yourself all through this video, well, maybe this is for someone else. You have been telling yourself, well, I am not chosen in that dramatic way. You have been telling yourself, well, maybe I am just eavesdropping on someone else's word. Hear me. If you had been eavesdropping, you would have gotten bored 10 minutes ago. You would have clicked away. You would have felt nothing. The fact that you are still here, still trembling a little, still holding your breath at certain sentences, is the very evidence that this word was addressed to you. Eavesdroppers do not weep. Eavesdroppers do not linger. Only the addressed remain. And you have remained. So stop asking whether you are the one being spoken to. That question has already been answered by your own presence. If somebody in your life is fighting a hidden battle, and you know this word would meet them exactly where they are, share this with them. Not with a long message, just send it. Let the Spirit do the introducing. Some people cannot receive comfort from you directly because the relationship is too close, or too complicated, or too tender, but they can receive it through a voice that is not yours. Be the delivery, do not be the message. Just carry it to them and let it do what it was sent to do. I want to give you one more revelation before the sealing prayer begins, and it is this. There is a boldness that is being returned to you tonight. Not a loud boldness, not a stage boldness, not a boldness that argues. A quiet, immovable boldness. The kind of boldness that lets you walk into a room without needing to introduce your credentials. The kind of boldness that lets you sit at a table without justifying your seat. The kind of boldness that lets your presence say what your mouth used to strain to prove. That boldness was stolen from you at some point in your story. Someone or something convinced you that softening yourself was maturity, and it was not. There is a softness that is holy, and there is a shrinking that is not, and you have been mistaking the two. God is teaching you the difference tonight. Holy softness bends toward people. Ungodly shrinking bends away from your own calling. From this night forward, you will bend toward people without bending away from yourself. And I want to name one more thing that heaven once named, because it is the sign you asked for and forgot you asked for. There is a small confirmation that is going to reach you within the next few days. It will look ordinary. Do not miss it because it looks ordinary. It might be a sentence someone says in passing. It might be a number you keep seeing. It might be a stranger's kindness that lands differently than it should. It might be a memory that surfaces at exactly the moment you needed a memory to surface. When it comes, do not dismiss it. Say thank you out loud. Because heaven is not just answering the doubters today. Heaven is also sending you a personal receipt, and receipts, beloved, are for the ones who did not lose the promise, even when they lost the timing of it in their heads. Comment, I receive it. One more time, if this word has reached the place nobody else in your life has been able to reach. Let it be your seal. Let it be your yes. Let it be your quiet act of standing up on the inside, even though your body is still. Before I pray this over you, more must be settled, because there is a specific mercy I have not yet named, and I would be robbing you if I sealed this word without it. Hear this. The way heaven answered your doubters today did not include your shame. Read that again. God chose a form of vindication that did not require your embarrassment as payment. Some vindications in Scripture were loud, but yours was designed to be dignified. The doubters received their answer, but the answer did not include a video of your fall, a report of your worst moment, or a public reckoning where you were forced to relive the wound. That is not because your case was smaller. That is because your covering is stronger. Some daughters and sons of God are vindicated by exposure of the enemy. Others are vindicated by the quiet excellence of the one who was doubted. You belong to the second category. Your name will not be cleared by scandal. Your name will be cleared by fruit. And fruit is slower than scandal, but fruit outlives it. And there is another mercy tied to that. The way God answered your doubters today did not require you to become bitter. That is not a small thing. Many souls, when their vindication finally arrives, discover that they can no longer enjoy it because bitterness had already colonized the very heart the vindication was meant to comfort. God has been guarding your heart for years, so that when the answer came, you would still have a heart soft enough to receive joy. Do not underestimate the miracle of arriving at your vindication with tenderness still intact. That tenderness is not a leftover. That tenderness is the proof that heaven's hand was on you the entire time. Anyone can survive being doubted. Very few survive it with their softness still breathing. You did, and that softness is your inheritance, not your weakness. There is one more thing that must be brought forward, and it is the reason certain doors that have been half open in your life have not fully swung yet. There is an unspoken agreement heaven has been waiting for you to break, and it is the agreement you made with the sentence, "Maybe they were right about me." You made that agreement in a low moment. You did not sign it in ink. You signed it in resignation, and that agreement has been quietly limiting how far you allow yourself to be seen. Tonight, in the presence of this word, that agreement is being torn up. You are not agreeing with them anymore, not even in the quiet places, not even in the tired moments, not even at 3 in the morning when the memory tries to visit you again. The agreement is void. And when an agreement is voided in the unseen realm, everything that was leaning on that agreement has to be renegotiated. That is why some of your circumstances are about to look unstable before they look established. Do not panic when the shaking begins. The shaking is the sound of illegal contracts being cancelled. And hear this last piece before the sealing begins, because it is the part the enemy hoped you would miss. There is a generational assignment being reversed tonight. You are not the first one in your bloodline who was doubted. You are simply the first one who did not agree with the doubt long enough for God to break the pattern through you. Somewhere behind you, there was a grandmother whose gift was mocked, an uncle whose calling was buried, a great-grandfather whose dream was called foolish, and the pattern kept passing down like an heirloom nobody wanted but everybody inherited. You are the one in whom the pattern breaks. That is why the pressure on you has felt disproportionate to your actual circumstances. You were not just carrying your own doubters, you were carrying the accumulated weight of every ignored voice in your family line. And tonight, that entire ledger closes, not just yours. The ancestors who never got their answer are receiving it through your obedience. Let that settle. You did not just win for yourself. You won for a lineage that could not win for itself. You are not the same person you were when you first pressed play on this video. Something has shifted inside of you. You may not see the shift yet. You may not feel dramatic about it. But there has been an unstitching, a restitching, and a repositioning that has happened in the last few thousand words, and the version of you that walks away from this screen tonight is not the version of you that sat down. That is not exaggeration. That is what happens when a soul receives a timed word. Do not underestimate it. Guard it tonight. Do not immediately walk into a conversation that will try to argue you out of what just happened here. Give yourself a few hours. Sleep on it. Let it settle. Let the roots grow before you show anyone the leaves. And now, chosen one, let me pray this over you. Father, I lift the one who has traveled this word with me from the very first sentence. You know their name. You know the exact rooms where they were doubted. You know the exact tables where they were dismissed. You know the exact silences where they were misunderstood. And you have not missed a single moment of it. Right now, in the name of Jesus, I close the mouths of every voice that has been assigned to keep them small. I close the voices that live in their memory. I close the voices that live in their family. I close the voices that live in their inheritance. I close the voice that has been living inside their own head. Every doubter, near and far, seen and unseen, spoken and whispered, has received their answer today, and their answer is that you are the God who defends the hidden ones without their assistance. Seal that truth into this soul tonight. Father, I ask that you return to them the boldness that was stolen in their childhood. Return to them the imagination that was mocked out of them. Return to them the softness that was punished. Return to them the vision that was corrected into something smaller. Restore, in Jesus' name, every original piece of who you designed them to be before the world got its hands on them. Let them walk out of this hour, not as a version of who others wanted them to be, but as the person you have always seen, And even as I seal this prayer, one more thing is being loosed over them. A new circle is being drawn. New witnesses are being sent. Old chains are being quietly dismantled while they sleep tonight. And the report of heaven concerning them is being read again in the courts above, with a fresh amen behind every sentence. Father, I ask that every prayer they prayed and forgot be honored on your timetable, not theirs. Every prayer prayed in a car, every prayer prayed in a bathroom. Every prayer prayed at midnight, when no one else was awake to hear it. Bring them back on your schedule, in your form, with your fingerprints all over the answer, so that no man can claim credit for what only you have done. And when the answer arrives, let them recognize it. Let them not miss it because it looks different from what they asked for. Let their eyes be trained by the Spirit to recognize the shape of your reply. I speak peace over their sleep tonight. I speak clarity over their morning. I speak boldness over their next conversation. I speak favor over their next open door. I speak protection over their next relationship. I speak alignment over their next decision. I speak witnesses over their next chapter. And I speak, one final time, that everyone who doubted them has received their answer today, and it did not require their voice, their effort, their proof, or their performance. It only required their staying, and they stayed, and you saw, and you have answered. Receive it, beloved. Receive it fully. Receive it without apologizing for how long it took. Receive it without measuring it against anyone else's version of it. Receive it as yours, given by the God who has been keeping the ledger since the day you were born, and who has finally chosen this day, of all days, to close the account of doubt over your life, and to open a new one, titled in your favor. It is done. It is sealed. It is yours. Amen.